by way of a quick introduction, then Nona, I want to let you, uh, you know, tell us really who you are and how you describe yourself to others, because uh, I know you will take this in the best possible way. You're an interesting philosopher among us. You know, you're an interesting person in the Stoic community. I've never come across somebody yet who brings the equestrian knowledge, and so we met each other at the Stoics Care Conference on courage a few months back, and we were put in a room together for our mentoring chat. And so we got a chance to get to know each other a little bit more. And Nona, as I got to know you, I thought, man, this woman is awesome and just, full of life. I love life-giving people, and you're full of life, Nona. And it was interesting that you had this equestrian background as well. I come from a family where, grew up with 13, 14 horses at any one time on the property. And, my mum and my sister were, and continue to this day to show their horses in Australia. And so, really just interesting connections between us. And I wanted to have a chat with you for the podcast to let you open up and talk to us a little bit more about what you do and how it relates to Stoicism and philosophy. But Nona, please do us the honor of introducing yourself.
Well, Simon, thank you for having me. This is very exciting to get to do. I get to do a little recording for Brittany one time asking, like, how does Stoicism work into being an equestrian instructor, teacher? And of course, the Stoics teach us that we learn from nature, and to be one with nature. And if there's any creature out there that can really teach you how to be stoical, it's a horse. But the big deal is I understand that in my years of teaching, so I've been riding formally for actually 51 years, and 41 have been at dressage. So I am a Grand Prix rider, FEI trainer, and the beauty of getting to that place is when you look back and see how hard it is, you realize all that I didn't know that I had to know. And if I knew it was that hard, I probably wouldn't have done it. But attaining that skill and that ability, now other people come to me, and I've learned they come to me not just because of what I can offer. There are other dressage teachers out there, but it's the why I do what I do. And the why I do what I do is because I realize the horse is just the medium by me to help people become their personal best. So in many ways, I already step up not to just be a trainer to them for dressage. It is to be their mentor, maybe their confidant, maybe the person that helps them find things they didn't even know about themselves. And because they fell in love with this particular this sport and art, I look at it as a sport, an art sport form, that they are asking me to help them be their best, whether they know it or not. And the only people that keep me as their teacher, I think, are the ones that want that, because it's not about just teaching a horse how to dance, because that's what this is. It's horsey dancing. Came from war. It was all of that stuff. But it's the hardest of all the equestrian disciplines to learn. As a matter of fact, you look at it and say, well, there's nothing to jump, or there's no barrels to go around, or you're not let out of the starting gate. So how hard is this? That's what I thought. And then 41 years later, I'm still learning. So it's exacting. It's very similar to golf. That's why I never took up golf, because I was like, oh my God, I can't do two things this exacting. I need something else, like to go blow up stuff. But so that's kind of what's happened to me. And I think as I get older and the more students I get and where life takes me, that I know when I enter these people's lives, whether it be a day or a year or years, it is part of my telos. Now, what's a telos? In Stoical philosophy, your telos is your life's mission, that which you resonate with. And my life's mission is that I want anyone that comes into my life, be it for an hour, a day, months, or years, that they were better for that. They were a better person for knowing me, that I could give something, that I could be something for them, or show them something that maybe they didn't know, or guide them, or be a light, or just be somebody that was present in the moment and listened. And to be a good teacher is to really be a better listener than a talker. So that's where all of this came from. And then joining the New England Stoics and becoming part of all of that, I started to equate how Stoicism plays such a huge part in being an effective teacher to humans and to the animals. Because an animal, if you invest your emotions as such as anger or frustration, or even too much joy in a moment, because you can lose the moment because there's only nanoseconds to fix things on these orangutans, that what is being offered to you has to be less emotional through logic, reasoning, and through a protocol of a template of understanding, but also to feel and to be in there to feel. So I think the beauty of this, that the horses have honed this for me, because if you can get a horse to get you angry and upset, one, it shows what you don't know. It's the only time you're going to get angry about anything is your lack of knowledge or skill. And two, they got me. They own me. Just like in any personal relationships. If somebody can frustrate you and get you upset, well, they own you in that moment. So it's very similar. And the topic of self-carriage that we're talking about is usually just stated for riding, discipline of dressage. So what does it mean to be in self-carriage? Well, with a horse, it means that the horse propels itself along, understanding its job by me not kicking, pushing, whipping, nothing. They learn to flow with me, but before they could ever do that, I must first be in self-carriage as the rider who's now the trainer. What does that mean for me? That means that I have developed enough skill in my body and mind, and I do believe my spirit, to not lean against anything this horse does to me. So if the horse doesn't move a certain way, or as I am the magic that I want. So my body flows in the suspension, timing, rhythm before the horse can even offer it to me. And then they learn, because you're attached to them up there in the center of gravity, to flow with you. Now, if you can get a horse to understand that and be with you, this is magic. This is the magic carpet ride. But then something else will happen. And this is what we look for, I think, in Stoical philosophy and as people. Something called throughness. All right. So what does that mean? A horse and rider combination will never attain throughness unless there's first self-carriage, because it can't lean on me and I can't lean on it. We're going to flow together in this timing and rhythm, finding those spaces in between the raindrops, knowing where the third vertebra is on the neck at any moment, blah, blah, blah. But the beauty is, once you hit that, now the energy that's this creature is propelling, you can then look for throughness. And what is throughness? Depth of energy that flows. Now, there's the magic carpet ride, and then there's the magical moment. And when you have a being that isn't the same as you, cooperate with you on that level, and it requires trust, that happens, there's a depth of a relationship that transcends what we really, there's nothing superficial about it. And there's not only the feeling of the energy flowing and the power coming through, but the animal having mental and physical confidence. And as a human, I think this is what in my training I've tried to strive for. Self-carriage, yes. Am I self-contained? Do I need your approval, Simon, to know that I'm good? Do I need another trainer's approval to know that I'm good? Do I? No. You know who tells me I'm good? The horses. They let me. So I take my feedback, letting me know that I'm in that space, that I don't need to rely, not that I don't listen, not that I can't hear someone's thoughts, their opinions, or their questions, but I don't need that. I don't need that to want to be a trainer. I don't need anybody to even seek me as a trainer. I do it purely because this is what I love to do. And it's the strangest thing. When you do what you love to do, people can see it and feel it, and they gravitate to you because they want, well, what is it about you? And then if they allow you, they can also be the impetus for you to reach another level of throughness. Because I think each person that comes into my life, that relationship gets to be that flowing. Now we can reach different levels of throughness with each other by everybody has something important to offer. And I'll have an affirmation maybe from someone, and they'll have an affirmation from me. And that will help me reach another sonic boom of understanding. Because as you know, as Stoics, we struggle as practitioners to become the sage, which we never are. We'll never do it, but doesn't mean we don't practice to be it. And that's the same for the horses. We're never going to be perfect, but you keep striving. So I hope that made sense.
Oh yeah. Well, I want to dive into that a little bit deeper because I love this idea of, the horse is autonomous and the rider is autonomous, but nonetheless there's a flow between them, deep connection. And even just when you're mentioning now, when human beings can kind of lock in with that same kind of spirit together, I've had those moments where many of them where you meet somebody and it's just immediate, oh my gosh, something is locked in here. And I've actually said that to me, we're locked in, right? there's something happening here. And allowing that to flow naturally. I think that my biggest challenge is that when I have those experiences, I then rush in to oh cool, let's keep this going, and there's this kind of what Rocco would say is non-being that kind of comes into the situation where what was once beautiful now is kind of not made into its opposite, but there's an unnecessary pollution of the natural flow of things there. And so I guess that's flowing to my next question, which is what gets in the way of self-carriage? What are the things that ruin the whole experience?
Agenda and ego. When we place an agenda on something, and now agenda is a big word. It sounds global. Agenda can be just something what you said, I want more. That could be an agenda rather than just sitting back and flowing. So this goes on a lot with my students when they come to me and they go, I want to go to a horse show. I'm like, okay, why? Well, because I want ribbons. Not a good answer. That's an agenda. Do you want to go to the horse show? Because if you know you're going to go to the horse show, instead of riding 4 days a week, you'll ride 5, and you'll get out there. If it's 100 degrees or 5 degrees, it will give you impetus for a goal. Will you go out there and focus more heavily if you know you have something coming? Or do you just want to win ribbons? So these are the things that can pollute the flow. And I will see, and I see it even, and Simon, I feel for you, because at my age, I'm really just learning that I cannot be the creator of magic. I must be the conductor of it, but I'm never the creator. So I've learned to sit back and allow, whether it be a conversation like we're having, or I'm out there teaching and I have a student that's frustrated. One comes to mind because she's a force to reckon with. And I respect her enormously because of her drive, but it is her drive that gets in the way. So it's that ability to wait. And as Stoics, what do they say? Don't always react. Wait. Stay in it. Feel and flow with it. And then you don't need to react. You're still in flow, which is that sin energy.
I love that. Sorry, I'm just going to very quickly let somebody into the room here. I love that idea of sitting with it. It's something that Sharon taught me very early on, this idea of po. Po is a kind of made up word, but aren't they all? Right. But it's this wonderful word that basically means to sit with an idea, not to say yes, not to say no, but to just sit with it and see what happens. And I want to focus on this tension, because I've had so much of that beautiful experience, as have you, of these moments in life where you realize, oh my gosh, when I get out of the way and let something happen, that is, like you say, when the real magic happens.
Oh, it's remarkable.
But just this idea of coming with an agenda, it is, it's something that I think it's funny. As soon as you said that, I said in myself, that's exactly the thing that gets in the way. If I look at my life experience, touche. Yeah. If I look at my life experience, that's always the thing. You meet somebody incredible and you immediately start thinking, how could this person help this thing that I'm looking to do? Or how could this person do this for me? Or how could I get more involved here, or this or that? Or, and then it becomes a chasing game rather than let's build a relationship and see what happens. What was the other thing that you said gets in the way? You said agenda and
ego.
Please dive in.
Well, and I want to clarify, agenda is not the same as a goal. Goals are important, but how you're driven towards those goals and what you see. I was always a mover and a shaker. If somebody needed something done, go to Nona. She'll make the world move. So early on in my young life, this was fed to me in a way that it kind of made me a monster with the agenda thing. And it was never for diabolical reasons. I mean, you're already stating like, oh, I met this person and how do they fit into this piece of my puzzle that I'm trying to make the world a better place? And I want their energy. And it's not wrong to want that. It is not wrong to want that. But to force it, reel it in, try to create it is the problem. That's the agenda. Now, ego, that's a big one, especially, I hate to say this, with horse people, unfortunately, because of the horse's status of who they are. We hear horses, right? People say movies, people that have money. By the way, I didn't. Dead fanny broke. No, just talent. That's it. Money didn't have, but I never stopped. I tried to stop. It didn't work. So when you're called to something, you're just called. It ain't going to stop. And it's going to keep bothering you till you do it. But anyway, you see that prestige.
Amen to that, by the way.
Yeah. So you just know, right? Okay. Yeah. So the horse carries with it a perception. So right away, some people that don't feel noticed, they feel invisible, not a lot of self-worth, whatever, come to this looking for identity. But what they don't understand is that they're coming for their ego. And until you come to some endeavor especially with another being, be it a human or a creature, and you're not coming from the purity of your being, you've already started it on a bad way. You're already attempting a relationship without allowing it to have genuine openness, purity, because the agenda is there. The agenda is your ego. So if I had to say ego's under agenda, because it's a type of agenda.
Mm.
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 And what's ego? It's not in self-carriage. As I said, the minute I go to someplace new to teach, right? Because a lot of people come in and they say, oh, I'm here. I am the dressage teacher. I'm like, ugh, I already know that one doesn't know anything. I come in, my hair's huge. I fly in. I'm like, what's going on? I'm adding the tempo. Who's ready? And I leave my ego in the car. I literally have a talk with it. I go, all right. Might be facing people out there that are on the glossy magazine. They might have more fame than you, but you know who you are and why you're here. And you're here to make things better if they allow you. So being in self-carriage for that meant I can't go in there doubting myself because I'm already folding like a suitcase to show the genuineness of who I am. And that would be, I'm afraid that my ego gets hurt. So I have a talk with it. Okay, you got to stay in the car, okay, because there's no room for you in this arena. So good luck. I'll be out in a while. And I go in and I open up and that means being vulnerable. But if you're in self-carriage, that's okay. Because I always say anybody's opinion of me isn't my business anyway.
That's beautiful. I love it. And so you have this chat with yourself to check the ego at the door. How do you then deal with others who, are very much stuck in that kind of forceful way of life, perhaps?
Well, I have an assistant in my field. It's not always as easy for other people to negotiate, but I have the horse. And when a human has inflicted their ego on a horse, I know it instantly. The horse is either shut down, not participating as a partner. And for my discipline, they have to want to dance with you. They have to want to be it, because you're never going to make a 1,200-pound animal do anything. It's got to want to be with you. And I usually am called because there's bad behaviors. The horse is rearing, it's doing whatever. It's had back surgery because somebody has ridden it from front to back. The horse is ridden from the reins first, not from his hind end to propel him. That's called a way to stop the flow before it happens. That means I need to control this. I need you to do what I want you to do for me. And I know it right away. So what I have to usually do is reach their ego and their vulnerability to open up to me through the well-being of their animal. And that helps me, because usually, unless they're using these animals as a tool to their well-being, which I don't even stay teaching those people. But if I see that the person loves their animal, I realize they're doing this because they don't know they're doing this. Because we do better when we know better. Mm. And I'm always of the mindset that I show up when I'm supposed to. And so what I try to do is peck away at it through the horse. I do know I can't attack it because the ego has claws and teeth. So I have to go at it. And the biggest thing I think that I try to do with anybody, be it for teaching dressage, or if someone comes to me for stoical mentoring or discussion about maybe a struggle that they're having in life, I try to look at the person's strengths before I look at their weakness. Because it is only in a person's strengths can they overcome their weaknesses. So if I just point out what they're not doing right immediately, I'm already attacking the thing they're protecting. So I go and I find in them what it is that they're doing well, right, and where their perception is on the right track. And from there, it usually allows a dialogue to go into, but now this is why this is happening. And, such as, I've been in dating this man for 5 years. Why don't I still have an engagement ring? Same conversation as, why can't this horse still do what I want it to do? It's kind of the same thing.
Hi friends, we'll be right back with this episode, but for now, I wanted to tell you about one of the services that we are proud to offer in the Walled Garden Philosophical Society, and that is philosophical mentoring. This is a method of coaching that aims to bring the mentee's actions into alignment with their most noble aspirations. And as mentors, we do this by holding space for philosophical dialogue and mutual discernment of the paths that lead to a flourishing life. At the Walled Garden, we have a whole team of truly world-class philosophers who are here and ready to walk with you as you face life's many challenges and opportunities, and we just love to meet you and see how we can help. If you'd like to book an initial consultation, just go to thewalledgarden.com/mentoring. Again, that's thewalledgarden.com/mentoring. We look forward to working with you, but for now, enjoy the rest of this episode. That brings to mind one of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn, where he said, this person comes up to me and they say, well, this happens to me and that happens to me. And why does all this stuff keep on happening to me? And he says, I don't know, best answer I have is things like this always happen to people like you. And
that's a good one. I like it. I might steal it.
But it seems to me to be actually quite a profound realization, which is that we can get trapped in this kind of approach to life where we, I hate using the word attract because I think the secret just ruined it for me. It's just this idea that I'm going to attract this great stuff to my life, But seriously, I think that the Stoics understood this. I think this idea that, of course, the way that you approach life is going to attract or detract, or attract or push away certain experiences in life. And it's funny because the way that you talk about it, it almost puts a certain Eastern sensibility on the Stoic philosophy. But I really do feel that to say that, we are living in this very complex web of interconnectedness where everything actually does make sense if you pay attention, and that you can, there is a time and season in life. There is a time for this, there is a time for that. And that we each have an individual nature that if we could understand that nature, if we would do the work and figure out who the hell we are, then on the other side of that would almost be like you're locking in to a certain flow in life where the thing that you are is so aligned with the thing that the universe has kind of created you to be, like a square in a square hole sort of thing. And that is so aligned with the Eastern kind of philosophy of, well, let me, I guess it's not necessarily just sit back and let it all happen. I mean, we intervene, right? Mm-hmm. We discern, we part, we chop things into pieces and say, this belongs here and this belongs here, all this sort of stuff. But nonetheless, it seems to be about getting good at discerning the time and season that you're in and what is appropriate at that moment, and not doing anything that is inappropriate for that moment.
Okay, so there's inappropriate. I like that word. Now, what makes us seek these things?
Yeah.
To me, some things I could only learn in hindsight.
Mm.
They, like you can't predict everything and you cannot control anything. Ooh, that was the big one. And the other one was, I can't stay connected to the outcome. I've got to do it for the sake of believing what I'm doing in the moment is what I need to be doing. Rely on the wisdom that I have at that moment, because as you go through your life, you will attain more. You can only have so much, but sometimes you have to have these things and live through them and then learn in hindsight. And that is, if you do that, like why did Marcus Aurelius journal day and night? He'd start his morning saying, all right, this is what I think is going to happen today. Let me get ready. And then at night, he'd review, well, some of this happened, some of it doesn't. How did I respond to it? And how can I be better? What that culminates in you is self-awareness, being the seer of who you are. There's a voice that goes on and there's actions that go on, but there's somebody that really lives in there that's the real you behind the voice. And so paying attention to all of that is how you grow to this place of self-carriage. Now, when did I figure out that I needed to be in self-carriage? Serious problem with codependency. Because being a strong person and I can make the world move, well, I would take on projects of weak people or whatever. And what I didn't do was necessarily teach them how to be in self-carriage. Now, this is interesting because in that time in my life, I didn't really know how to ride in self-carriage. So as that skill developed and the actual essence of what it feels like started to come through, like if someone comes to me, yes, it's not my place to just go, oh, well, we'll see what the universe gives you. No, sometimes it might be up to me to step up, help out, intervene, but never do it for them. And that is where I really had to learn when my awareness, when am I now I'm a blockage to the progress of a person, because sometimes the best thing I could have done for somebody is say, okay, well, I can't do anything for you anymore. You're on your own. Yeah, that is important to be aware of. And you do have to, well, I think that's our agenda anyway, to be here. I think our agenda is to keep becoming more and more aware what is going on in any given time and wherever life plunks you, to pay attention to what your role is and play your part, not the other person's part, and be that which you're supposed to be. And if you can't be the fullness of it in the moment, that's okay. Learn from it and grow from it, because that's all life is.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love this. And there's something that you're bringing up for me now, which is just this idea. I've been thinking about this so much lately, this idea of, like you say, I'm not going to do it for you. And sometimes the best thing is just to say, there's not much else that I can do. What about being on the receiving end of that? Because I feel as though, with the heavy loads that I'm trying to lift in my life right now, I do rely on a lot of people, and sometimes, I've had these conversations with people where they will talk to me about, there's incredible people in their life, in your life right now, but they're intelligent. And what they're going to do is they are going to give you enough, but then there's going to be certain levels that you will have to do yourself, and you will have to jump over those hoops. And what about the person who needs to overcome that reliance on others, or that maybe that need for permission even, to go through that and to come out on the other side as somebody who is capable and able to achieve the things that they are being pulled towards. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Mm.
Well, I think the biggest thing that a person must do is recognize their reliance too much in that area for whatever it is that's somebody's trying to say. All right, listen, okay, I set you up to succeed. Now you got to do this. And I think you have a choice when someone tells you that. You can be offended, which means you still want to be dependent on them. Or you can say, I may not feel like I'm ready, but I have faith in this person that's upheld me this long to see what I can't see in me. So let me put on my big boy and girl panties and get out there and give it a whirl. Because the object isn't that if that person, you'll get abandoned in your dependency if you won't face it. They'll have no other choice but to abandon you in it. But if you step up and you face it and say, all right, you're right, it's time, they'll support it. They'll encourage you along the way, but not have to leave the equation. And I'm always sad when someone makes me completely leave the equation because they will not hear. This is now like, here, you got to take it. No, and they keep handing it back. No, I'm like, no, you got to take it. Oh, no, they keep handing. No, so now I got to go away so you can't even be there to hand me anything. Whereas if they're trying and, hey, nobody does it right the first time that I've seen. I mean, so I've had some people struggle with codependency and come to me and say, oh, it's almost like the more I focus on it, the more I want to do it. And I'm like, okay, but the first thing you did to get better is you're aware of when you're doing it, but you have to face it. So, but I think it's how you receive the information, Simon, which is what's important to how you're going to be. Either that other person has to step away from you, and because you're not letting them let you fly, they know you're ready to fly with, maybe some help, with the wind to help you fly now and then, but not doing it for you. Or if they have to leave the equation because you're just refusing to set off. And it's always sad for me when that happens. But I know at times when I've done it, one, I knew it was the absolute right thing to do because I felt relief. So I was understanding that I was doing too much. Because when you feel a burden, a person shouldn't be a burden to you. There can be some, what do I want to say, texture in a relationship. But if there's weight, somebody isn't doing something right.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful way to put it. Texture. That was very carefully worded.
Texture. So I know that when I walk away and I feel like, I'm like, see, again, you took too long to correct this, or you took too, you know what I'm saying? Whereas when there's that texture, there can still be that communication and support and in there. But sometimes it isn't me creating all the weight. Somebody wants to hand me the weight. Yeah. And, when I say, no, I'm not going to take that. I'm not taking it anymore. So, and I've had people walk away because they were offended. Like they accused me of abandoning them. I'm like, really? After all I've done, now all of a sudden I'm abandoned. But therein is where you have to be in self-carriage. And in a place where you're content with yourself and feeling, what is my motive for doing it? Do I just want to be rid of this? And am I judging this human being as, oh, they're worthless, she's never going to do it, or he's never going to do it, or they're just, no, or it's time now. It's not about judging them. It's about helping them, whether they see it or not, and standing tall and firm in my resolve to know that any more from me is destructive, not helpful to either of us, not just that person, me too. Yeah.
Man, this is good learning. I love this. I can't wait to get this on the podcast too. I wanted to ask, do you think that with this self-carriage analogy, there's also analogy to be drawn in the practice of virtue, because with the Stoics, I mean, they talk about how, the sage is somebody who does the right thing at the right time, in the right place, in the right mindset. Everything is aligned perfectly. And I think that a lot of what we're talking about today is, how do we discern when our motivations are out of whack? When we're just looking to do something because we have an agenda, or whether there is a beautiful flow to our actions in life and to the way that we live our lives. And so, but even when it's not with relationship to others, although you could say that we are always in relation to others, but when we are practicing discipline, or trying to get rid of a bad habit, things like this, or trying to build a good habit, it seems like there is like a wrestling period where there is a bit of a war, there is a bit of a battle, but eventually the two can kind of lock in. The part of yourself that wants better and the part of yourself that didn't want better but now understands that that's bringing good fruits, they can start to flow together, and maybe it's getting out and going for a run, which I'm currently I tell you what, I am struggling so hard this year just to get back into the habit of running, even though I love running and I've always loved running. But this year is just like, man, getting back into it, But do you think that that's an appropriate analogy as well, that the battle between those parts of ourselves within us?
Oh, absolutely. I think I was gravitated heavily towards the Stoical philosophy and practice, because instead of, and this is what everybody needs to hear from me too. I am not a natural Stoic. I am not natural at all. Nope. My husband's natural. He doesn't have to study it at all. Me, fire. First thing, my emotions would be like, what? Who said what? Who wants what? I would just be like, whoa, I'm not putting up with that. That's ridiculous. Raw, that is me. Okay, that's my persona. Now, this does not serve me well. So to answer you, I'm going to try not to be global. I'm going to try to bring it in, but it's part of this answer. So what did I have to know first? Well, Nona, you don't let reasoning be at the forefront. You jump from your emotions. Does this serve you well? Absolutely not. So I'm like, okay. And then I would have good friends affirm in me. This is why we need other people that, we need to open and hear, because sometimes they see us, we don't. They'll say, well, Nona, you're smarter than that. What's the matter with you? And I'm thinking, this has nothing to do with intellect. This has to do with the order of go. This has to do how I put information in my mind and the order of which I do it, which is not serving me. I need a new template. I need a new flow chart so that I can navigate things without getting ulcers or judging someone or flying off the handle or even giving someone the wrong impression of me right from the get-go. So this is what made it attractive, because a Stoic, and our thoughts about that, is virtue, right? We're trying to be, well, how do you attain being virtuous? Because this is a very nebulous concept. So, but it has, when you dig in, right? It has 4 axioms. It has wisdom, judgment, courage, and justice. So now, whenever I want to, from the hip, right? I'm like, okay, drop and roll. Let's go to the filter. Da, 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 da. All right. What's the wisdom in this? Should I say this, this, or this? Or should I do this, this, or this? Or not say this, this, or this? Or not do this, this, or this? If I do or do not, now, is that fair to everyone or just me? Am I being temperate? Like, that's the first thing always for me. I got to pull back the fire, like, all right, so temperate, give this a day or two. We do not need to do this immediate. Okay. Think, is this fair for everyone? Or am I just serving my own needs? Okay. I get the idea. No, if we do this, yeah, works for this, works for that, fits in. Yeah. Now, the tough part is the courage to implement it. So that sometimes takes the fortitude. That takes the self-carriage sometimes to go, okay, this is what we're going to do. And this is why I'm going to do it. And I think for me, Simon, that has been how I keep hashing out my decisions to make sure that I'm paying attention to my behaviors, how I process information, and how I treat other people that will be affected by those things, be they even just myself, or of course, my poor husband has to take the backlash of anything I do, right? So how does that fit in? And that's really, to answer you, I think we all need to have a practice in our life, whether it be journaling or meditation or something that has us examine ourselves and and why we're doing what we're doing. So for me, the Stoical template was it was just like, there it is, do it. Now it's become confirmed in me. It's a bit of my cellular, natural, but I don't think that's right away. We must keep doing to do so it becomes part of us. And that's why I think it's important to set up. And you know what? The truth is, we all have a life's philosophy. We may not call it stoical, and I'm not a pure stoic, right? Because I refuse to become a mannequin. Because that's, if you do it the right way, you turn into a waxed figure. But I refuse that because I believe some of my passion needs to stay in me in a vibrant way, because without passion, I'm not the person that I came to the planet to be. So I'm not looking to squelch my passion. I'm not looking to squelch my persona, but I'm looking for my reasoning to serve me better. And then those other creative parts of me come along and enhance it.
Man, amen to that. I think a lot of people would make the argument that if you do turn into a mannequin, you're definitely doing stoicism wrong. But nonetheless, still, I think it's easy for us to veer into the types of conversations that make stoicism seem like it is that way. I mean, just the other day we were having a conversation on sports and stoicism, and we had this kind of lengthy part of the conversation where we were discussing the audience, and as an audience member, if you were a Stoic, for example, by the way, I always I tire very quickly of the what would a Stoic do? It's like, how about what would I do if I wanted better? Because that's pretty universal, and that's
right.
and that's probably question. Makes you a Stoic, but
yes,
it's like,
it does, because it makes you want virtue. Yes,
exactly. And as soon as it becomes about what would a Stoic do, well, now we have a dogma, and we're entering Council of Nicaea, and we're trying to figure out what is the dogma of the Stoic religion, and but I think what you say is quite beautiful. What's happening is my cat is just going over the computer right now. He is. He's the best thing that's ever happened to us. Anyway, but there is this, it's like the Catholic idea of faith and reason, or we need. I think I was listening to Bishop Barron, and he was talking about, how as Catholics, I'm not a Catholic, but I'm interested in these ideas. As Catholics, we do not shun the passions of the world, we just keep them in proper balance. And I think that is such an appropriate way to look at these things, that we do need, as human beings, to have the passions as a part of what we are and who we are, and we need to let them manifest themselves. But how do you strike that balance, Nona? Hi friends, we'll be right back with this episode. But first, I wanted to let you know that most of the conversations that you hear on this show were recorded live at events and workshops in the Walled Garden Philosophical Society. We are so grateful for the quality of our guests and the kind of conversations that we get to have at these events, and we'd like to invite you to attend and join the conversation. Our events feature contributing philosophers of the Walled Garden, as well as world-class philosophers, theologians, artists, and spiritual leaders from all around the globe. If you'd like to come along, then just go to thewalledgarden.com/events. From there, you can find an event that you're interested in and register with a donation of your choosing. Or, if you're a subscribed caretaker in the Walled Garden, then you can get into all of these events for free by simply logging into the website and joining the Zoom waiting room via the event page. Again, go to thewalledgarden.com/events to register today. We look forward to seeing you there, but for now, enjoy the rest of this episode.
Well, first of all, I did have a struggle for a while, to admit this. So if anybody else is interested, they start the Stoical practice, because it really wasn't me that didn't notice it. It was, I had to talk about self-carriage. So I have the other Stoics saying to me, well, you're being too passionate about this. I said, okay, so what you need to understand is I didn't come here to become a stone figure, and I didn't come here to eradicate that part of me that I think is beautiful. I came here to put my life in balance so that reason and virtue and all of that are at the forefront, and my passion is the creative part by which I present my life to the world. So I first had to get over the fact that, and it was a little bit difficult, because I was thinking, I said, these people are judging me. I really, it would all of a sudden it hit me like, they're not supposed to be judging me. Stoicism says you don't judge people. And I got judged. So I had to stand up. I got all courageous. And I said, listen, you people need what we call in riding a half halt. What's a half halt? Is when we take little feels through the body and the back and make the horse wait, go, uh-oh, wait, time out. So I gave them a little half halt and said, listen, I'm not looking to eradicate pieces of me. I am looking to have a life's philosophy that I feel takes the best pieces of me in the proper order, so that when I go out there, I present myself to be the best that I can be and fulfill my telos. Someone meets me, was it a wonderful experience? So that's kind of it. If I had to say to you, that's how I deal with it. But I first had to make up my mind that being passionate isn't a bad thing. But if that's all you ever are, that tends to mix in with your ego and create an agenda. Whereas if you live by a virtuous template, because the idea is when I am better in myself, then I'm good for my friends and my family, which is then good for my community, which then helps the world. Even if I never see those people, I'm being a 1%er, I'm being part of that. So I think what had to happen for me was I had to realize those pieces of me are not bad. They're not a problem, but the order of go is. So that's it. I have things now like, okay, when can you do that? No, this, and this first. And then, okay, so when you want to express it, now add your passion to the thing you want to present with virtue.
Yeah. Beautiful. I really appreciate that, Nona. And I think now is an appropriate time to maybe open it up and see if anybody has any questions for you based on what we've talked about so far, and and we'll see how we go. But Nona, any final words here? Any because I think we'll chop it off at the end of this section for the podcast. But just thank you so much for being here today. Any final words for the podcast listeners?
I think the thing I would like to say, that if I can tell you anything about being an equestrian and being somebody that gets to go out and deal with beautiful creatures that our planet put over here, I'm so grateful for them for teaching me about how to be a better human. But I think any endeavor that you choose from your heart can make you better, but you have to be the person to invest in that for the right reasons. And the right reasons will always be to be a better person for yourself first, and then that will just fill up as the order of go, as I said, to your family and your friends and the world. And use your loves and the things that you love, because I could never, no one in my family rode, and no one understood. They were like, what is wrong with this child? Like, what, why? As a matter of fact, my father said, your determination is a little bit frightening, over this. And that's another thing. Determination is different than stubbornness. Determination is what makes you bring out your best towards that which you love. If you get stubborn about hearing what others can offer you, even if you don't agree, what you then put is you shut down your determination to be destructive. So determination and stubborn, they're very close, but one is the shutting, the blockage. Stay determined, stay in love, live a life that offers you life. Don't ever quit trying. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. Don't let anybody tell you you're not good enough. And you came to the planet enough. The rest is just keep working at it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Great final words. Although I hate saying final words. It makes no sense. What are you dying?
Yeah, well, I hope not. Although some of these animals I get on, I wonder, I'm like, why do I do it? I'm not. Something's wrong. There's a screw loose, but it's okay.
I'm thinking back to a moment. Actually, by the way, if anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on asking questions here.
I think Jen's got questions. I can
Jen,
feel
you got
her.
A question?
Well, I don't know yet, but her body's been a little, she's allowed us to see her, so I can feel her like having thoughts. But go ahead, Simon, until she decides she wants to.
No, she's in.
Oh, yeah.
No.
All right, Jen.
This is just absolutely fascinating. And I know I could have used a lot of this information when I was younger, because I actually did ride horses. Not English, though. I did Western. So I did bow racing, bending, those sort of events. I totally could have used this idea of self-carriage as well as Stoicism. I had no idea what that was, 20 years ago, road. But, what you're saying about, the self-carriage and that connection with the animal, and you like the energies, like, when you click with the animal. I know I definitely felt that with some of the horses that I rode over the 10-year span that I did compete. And some I definitely did not. Like, it brought to mind one memory of a horse show where the judge at the end of the class, like, pulled everybody in, had comments, said who got first, second, third, whatever. He comes over to me. He's like, you ride better than that horse, because we were just opposite energies. We were just battling the whole time. So, like, I would suggest, that you get switched to a different horse. And that totally brought that memory back to me, because I was doing everything within my power and the horse was just fighting me the whole time, did not want to do anything. So, and I was also, in my teens too. So I'm thinking, like, did I have that agenda of, I'm doing this just for the ribbons or any of that? So just, I'm absorbing all of this information and thinking back to.
So what would it have been like to have me as your instructor? So here's I have a young woman. She's in her 40s. I actually was teaching at the farm for almost a year before she hired me. She has 2 very high-strung horses, and she's very driven. but she really wants to do it right. And she also hasn't had the right information. I am a biomechanical wizard. Okay, so this is kind of why people call me too, because I know how to make these animals biomechanically more correct, even if they came to the planet not really available physically to do the job. How to put them in training to get them to the place where they can, for whatever their conformation will offer to certain levels. Okay, so but anyway, so she said to me the other day, and I had gone, she's in Connecticut, so she's a little bit away from me. So she does take virtual lessons too. There's a machine now we have that, this is great, because if it's cold out, I can sit home and I'm in the living room and she's riding around. Anyway, so she said to me, and she's starting to get upset, right? And I'm watching her, and I feel the energy. She's just ramping up in there, and it's happening. And I'm like, okay. Now, years ago when I was younger, I would have probably said, all right, that's enough of that. We're not gonna have it. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna let this settle for a moment. And she's gonna give me something. I know she's gonna give me something. So I've learned to wait, because I know the horse helps me. I just know. So she says, why can't she just do it? We just can't do it. I'm so sick of this horse. I just do it. So I let her yell it for a while, right? She's in my ear. And I said, Gwen, we're going to reverse this, okay? You came to me and you had reflexes, all right? Like your brain didn't even know your left hand was pulling down, or your seat was a meat grinder, okay, that you were pushing down in your pelvis into the horse's withers. How about if I walked into the ring without giving you time to get to know me, know what I want, explain to you where we've got to go from what you have, put new reflexes in you so that your body can accommodate, which takes time. It takes 5,000 repetitions to replace a reflex. Okay. And I walked in the ring and I told you, I gave you one lesson, and I came back the next time and you still got that left arm pulling down, which, just so you know, by the way, you did. Pulling down, doing this, and with that. What if I just said to you, Gwen, why can't you just do it? You're frustrating me. What would you have felt like? You have felt like you're never going to please me. You can't do it fast enough. And I would have broken your confidence. That's what you're doing to that horse. She pulled up inside the arena, looked at me, and started to cry. I didn't know. You're right. I said, stop putting your agenda on the horse. Compassion. And the problem why she just can't do it is because you didn't explain it right in the first place. So now we're going to go back and we're going to start again. And we're not going to have the mindset that the horse is sabotaging you. You're the one in the way. You're the human. And by the way, this is how you bulldoze people, just so you know. She looked at me. You're right. I do that. So you see, Jen, I know that when I have these students, and I'm telling you, I've told her, I said, you work like a rented mule. You are driven. I respect it, but you're greedy. You get greedy. Why are you greedy? Because you want something. Till the day you get on there and your heart is pure, it will not happen. And you can buy another horse. You can buy anything you want. Go buy $1 million one out of Europe trained. You'll ruin it. And I said, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the horse is only a mirror of who we are. Now, that horse that you had, I don't know how long you had it, but that horse had already learned that humans are not very cooperative either. So he probably was like, I got a good rider on me, but God knows what she's going to do, because this doesn't go well for that long. And I'm going to defend myself. And this is how it goes. But don't we run into people like that? don't these creatures give us an opportunity? Because you know what? They don't have language. We have language between each other, so we can access faster. But I know that by staying in this endeavor in my life with these beings, these beautiful creatures, they've let me see myself for who I am: impatient, demanding, agenda. Ugh. Guess what? That's when I rode like crap, when I got rid of all of that. And I came to it and I said, okay, by the way, I had to be humbled. My horse humbled me. Thank God. Thank God. And that horse I had, he should have killed me before he humbled me, but he didn't kill me, but he humbled me. And I came back and I went, you know what? The smartest thing you're ever going to learn is you're not that smart. Now maybe you're going to get some wisdom and learn how to do this stuff. And stop thinking you already know, because once you think you already know, you're untrainable. And that's who that is. But that's how it got turned around for her when I can't change it.
Oh man, Nona, we've got to get you on the corporate speaking route. I tell you what,
know.
you could whip some CEOs into shape.
Do it. Well, maybe you didn't set them up to succeed. That's why they're not doing it. Yeah. So, but I hear that a lot.
It's a total change in mindset and perspective and perception and all that. Like, you know,
right.
A couple of years after, working with that one horse for however long, I never actually owned a horse, but I would lease them and I would, take lessons on different ones. So I did catch up with that one horse for very long. One of the last ones that I rode, I actually couldn't ride her at first because she'd been privately owned and at the stables, and the owner relinquished her to the owner of the farm, so she hadn't been touched in over a year. So I'd go out into basically almost start from scratch.
Sure, she was cutting coupons out. She thought she was retired.
I'm
yeah,
20 old, 21 or so. I think it was my last college. What do I do with this? I was used to horse where, you go out there, you hook a lead line on them, take them out, saddle them up, and,
cooperation. Even just, you were used to cooperation, right?
I'm I have to go get the horse, and she wouldn't follow me. I click on the, the lead line. She's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I had to. So my instructor's yelling over fence, back her up. What? Reverse. Okay. So I actually had to reverse her all the way out. And then, I'd come back several times in the week because I, ended up leasing. Her name was Lily, Diamond Lil. I'd start from the ground up. I had to get her to follow me instead of me pushing her out of the pen, then walk her around.
So, Jen, you had to create a relationship.
Yes.
That horse expected you to do the work, to have the relationship with her. And it doesn't shock me that it was a mare, by the way. Not at all. Not at all.
I rode the handful of mares that I ever rode. I'm we would just butt heads, except for this last one. She taught me so much about patience and, like you're saying, developing that relationship. And it was yeah, they'll
teach you. If you want it, earn it. There's some that will say, listen, I don't think I have to cooperate with you. If you want me to do it, maybe you better just show me that that you have a mutual respect here. Otherwise, I'll give you the middle hoof and I ain't doing it.
Exactly.
Well,
Nona, how many times have you said to a person, I'm about to give you the metal hoof?
Yeah, that talk, and it's usually talk to the back of the saddle. That's the one I usually give them. You could talk to the back of my saddle because that's about all I'm going to listen with right at the moment. So, but Jen, you're getting the correlation because you have been around these creatures. But I think any endeavor that you take on that is where you have to learn to negotiate, cooperate, see someone else for who they are or another being for who they are. And I think the horses have made me keenly aware it's easier with humans Because see, horses, they don't have language. But they're more genuine than humans, which is, a horse will kick you and kill you. A human will try to deceive. Horses don't have that ability. But by reading the nuances of their body, the way they move, how they cooperate or not cooperate, whether they trust or don't trust, and just like people, we don't always know somebody's background, right? An animal will come to me, I don't always know its full history. That I got to figure it out by looking for its best before I look for its worst. Yes, I might see its worst right away because it shows me something. But then I got to go look for the best so that I can find a way to fix that. And I think that's made me a much better person than either of my parents. My parents were very judgmental. My mother would be very, oh, look at that. Oh, that's just, we don't want to be bothered with that. And, and I it's very isolating. It's very discriminatory. It's very, in my mind, my mother did it, and I know now because she didn't have a lot of her own self-worth. But Anne was not in self-carriage ever in her life. So I think that by staying in an endeavor with a creature that doesn't have language and such, it's just made it, I don't know, they've brought me back to human beings in a way that I realize I'm responsible for the relationship too. It's not just up to the other person. I'm invested in it too. And sometimes I'm the one that has to step up. So.
Totally makes sense. I know I've carried some of the lessons I learned from those horses, 20 plus years later. I'm in my 40s now, and I can still think of some of the lessons from those horses, especially that last one, Lily, learning so much patience and having to build that relationship, and, dealing with the mare who could be fussy sometimes, but when I finally got to saddle her up and we started, walk and trot and all the basics,
And what about the self-reward you felt in doing that?
So much, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Just, it was, I'm like, finally, like a month later, I'm putting a saddle on this horse who hasn't been handled in a year or so. It's me. I'm finally the one who gets to, work with this animal. And, I ended up actually, side note, have a degree in biology. So I still work with animals to this day, just a lot smaller. I'm in a research lab.
Yeah, so well, you're not in the way of the hoofs and the teeth anymore. But, but it still stayed with you. And let me ask you this, Jen. Have you met people that have that mare's personality?
What do you mean? Just like,
well, have you ever met anybody similar to that mare that you walked up right away and they were like, yeah, right. And so you find your way in. You find your way in. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Be like, yeah, who's she? What's that? Oh, yeah. Well, she's over here. She wants to put the saddle on me. Yeah, right. I won't even go in the barn with her yet. Let's figure this out. So how many times do you meet people that they're right away suspicious, or they already have had bad experiences in life, and they already have that, the wall is up. That mare is that person. That mare is already that person. So how did you find your way in? A little at a time. Little at a time.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah. And so this is who, I've had them cooperative, fun-loving, fold in my lap. I've had them coming to me with teeth baring, ears pinned back, and somebody says, oh, look, I just bought a refrigerator. I want to make it into a filing cabinet. They buy these animals that aren't confirmation for the sport. But let's do that because I want to. Okay, so how do we negotiate that a little bit? So it's a constant challenge, but so is everyday life. I mean, just sometimes getting into the grocery store and somebody yanking a cart that I thought I was going to get, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, here we are. All right. Now what do I do about that? Do I start that for nothing? No. Just, okay, let her have that. I'm going to win the war by losing this battle. Let that just go. Right? And that makes everyday life a little less stressful because we don't get upset over so that's what horses have done. Sometimes I got to lose a battle to win a war, and I'm willing to do that.
It's funny you mentioned these kinds of people who are standoffish at the start.
Oh yeah.
But then you build the relationship with them. It's funny. I had that exact experience last night. I've just kind of taken over, managing this music studio, and there's this one teacher there who, since day one, kind of abrasive is probably the word I'd use. And I've come to know over time that it's not necessarily from a bad place. He's just there are these kinds of people who their stance from the start of meeting a new person might be more prove that you're actually solid, Mm-hmm. And last night, after 4 months, we had this moment of like actually just chatting with each other, not necessarily just about work, but about his career and things like that. And there was this moment where he kind of looked at me and shook my hand, thanks for getting real, man. And just like, it was that moment where I was like, oh my gosh, we've had a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And I think really what it has to do is sometimes people need to know that you do have their best interests at heart, that you are there as a solid person, reliable, looking to make a difference, this sort of thing. But I do feel as though it is kind of representative of, like we've talked about today, Nona, there's a kind of youthful stage that we go through, but psychological adults recognize other psychological adults. And psychological adults also can pick out, a 40-year-old 6-year-old,
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. Chronologically aged, but emotionally intelligence deficit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes I try to get myself out of the 6-year-old phase.
Yeah. Say, let me act mature. Well, I think that person that you met, especially in an industry where people can be full of BS, he's looking for somebody to show him that you mean it. So in his mind, you got to show it. And when you offered the best of yourself by you didn't protect yourself, and you obviously didn't give him a bunch of, the regular runaround, whatever he was expecting, and you got real, then you won his ability to open to you and say, well, now I'm even willing to learn about this person because he's not just playing the same old. And that's what I talked about earlier on, that there's a lot of people that have what I have to offer somewhat, but why you do it is the real ingredient. So why ever you were engaging in this business, it comes out with your genuineness. So when you offer that, that's what we do as people too, right? I call it the dance of the porcupines. Everybody's afraid to be genuine, and they got their quills out. It's like, I don't want to offend anybody. And well, what if they think I'm too stupid if I said that? Or, everybody's like, no, I always just quills in, ego in the car. Hi, how are you? Yeah, did you see my hair? It's dyed. And so, we start the conversation, and it's, and then they're like, oh, she's either brilliant or crazy, maybe both. And I like her because I can relax around her, because somebody's got to put the quills down first. So see, you did that first. He's got his out like, whoosh. And, I meet lots of people like that. And it's okay. I kind of respect them because they want genuine people. They don't want to play the game. They want someone genuine. So that one makes me like your mayor, Jen. She wanted somebody that really wants to do this. If you don't, just go back in the barn. But when you won her and you won her cooperation, you see, now you have somebody that's genuinely with you. And so I never get like, oh, look at this one. It's going to be a hard sell. Oh, I'm like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to show them I'm the real deal.
You know, Nona, the first time we had a conversation, the first thing that came to my head was she's either brilliant or crazy.
And I didn't even have one of those hats on that I usually wear.
And you know what? I think there's a lot of people who I love who that was the first thing that I thought when I had first conversations with. And I stand by the fact that you're actually a bit of a mix of both, and I love that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely not all there, but in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
Yeah. And you know, for people, I think, you know, my ability to be that a little bit, as my writing coach calls me, she says, Nona, you're bigger than life, and you enter the room before you're even in the room. It allows people to open up to me. And I had to learn that skill because I used to be very reserved. And I was a lonely kid. And I remember my mother taking a picture of me. This was great. And she goes, look at that face. I was like, ooh, that looks kind of like I'm smelling duty. She goes, right. Learn to smile, learn to talk. You want people to come to you, be something that they can come to. And then I might have got a little carried away, but it all works. But it works. And so then people, you know, my riding coach found, there was a sea of horse trailers at a horse show, sea of them. She found me, beeline to me. I said, how'd you find me so fast? She goes, you're the only one here laughing. Everyone else thinks this is important. I said, I'm just here to wear my clothes. I already know I'm the best one here. So we start laughing. But, you know, that's the stuff that brings joy to life. I mean, of course, there's times where things are very serious and you have to, you know, have your bolts on tight. But most part, I think we take things a little bit too much, ourselves too seriously. And I think when we open up to people in that genuine way, in a relaxed fashion, like you did with that person and you did, Jen, with that horse actually made you do more than you realized, we become just better people.
And now that I'm thinking about, like the personality of that horse, very standoffish and kind of needed, you know, me to prove myself to her and all that, you know, like you're just saying, the dance of the porcupines, that was me. That's me. It's like you're just saying, when you're younger, you're the, you know, the more reserved, like standoffish kind. That me for most of my life. You know, I'm still an, but definitely a little more. I'm wearing one of my shirts again.
There you go.
But I've definitely become like more open and more outgoing as opposed to when I was much younger. So now that I'm thinking about it, like, you know, that horse was kind of like me, or like other people, like, you know, so breaking down that barrier, it's like you think about it. Like,
and has your life been better since you find ways to kind of put down the quills?
Yes. Oh, definitely.
Of course.
Like, definitely, like, you know, gotten to know, you know, have like better friendships, better relationships with, you know, family and friends and that kind of things. Like allowing people in is definitely, you know, a life improvement. And, you know, putting those quills down is definitely a good thing to do.
And the other thing too, I've realized is that people make quick judgments about us, you know, right from the get-go. Because I think that's an act of nature, maybe in a way like, ooh, maybe I don't want to go near that, like, but even if we learn not to judge, sometimes we're the one that has to rip the facade off to let them in because they don't know how to do it yet. But even when you do it, so you're already teaching someone like, ooh, I like her. I like her because she's like that. Maybe I can have a little of that, Maybe I'm not all that, because not everybody wants to be me. But, you have a little piece of it and they say, ooh, that's I'm attracted to that behavior. It makes me want to go. So, that's, I think, the thing too, that is, it's like people say, well, remember when Jen used to be kind of like, I'll look at her. Which makes people see more of the real you, because when you have your porcupine quills out, you're just defending yourself. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be seen. Maybe people will judge you. I don't know, but I think the more we can put our quills down, it's a sign of our own internal health. Yeah. Self-carriage. What were you going to say, Jen? I cut you off. Okay.
Absorbing it all, definitely. This just makes so much sense. Like, even thinking, like once I started putting those quills down and trying to let people in, I was attracted to people that I kind of wanted to be more like more open people. Like, I can think of, my best friend, who we've known each other for 10, 12 years. She's kind of my opposite in a lot of ways, but yet at the same time, like, I kind of want to be a little more open and free like that. So let me let her in a little bit and we get to know each other more. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe I can let some of my, walls down and become a little more like that, and then we can like balance each other out a little bit, because she, picked up a little more like my reserve and we kind of traded off a little bit.
See? Yeah, the yin and the yang thing. And you know what? And you're going to put your spin on it, like when people, they'll come to me and say, well, what would you say in this? I said, well, all right. We don't want to know what I'm going to say, because first of all, I'm going to be animated when I say it. So first of all, let's practice what you want to say, and let's put your spin on it. So when you've got to go and confront this, it's more genuine than you just trying to mimic me, because that alone is going to be a chore. So why don't we see? And so you, Jen, you might see, what you like in somebody else, but you're going to put the Jen spin on it, because you can't be somebody you're not, but you can be a better version of what you want to be. And that's really all we're all looking to do. So that's great. And I love hearing how that, I think that's great that Mayor did that. I love that. By the way, the one Gwen yelled about, why doesn't she just do it? Is a Mayor. I'm like, she's just like you, Gwen. That's right.
Well, look, Nona, we are coming up to the end of our time here, but I wanted to see, I don't know if Tony, or actually I should also just mention to you guys, my mother jumped in a little bit late, but she's here. Pauline, I know she won't want me to put her on the spot, but I did tell her today, because they had we've had horses all the time growing up, and they are just superb breeders and trainers of horses.
How does Pauline feel about the dressage teachers?
Oh,
they always see us and go, oh, here comes that one. Oh God, well, the headache.
I don't know if they're still listening in, or maybe they're having breakfast or something. I know they're on holiday at a beautiful place called Rainbow Beach but if anybody has any other questions, I don't know, Tony or Pauline, just jump in, or forever hold your peace. We'll okay, excellent. Well, in that case, I want to say, Nona, it has been so beautiful to have you here today. Thank you so much for sharing your time, sharing your spirit with us. Man, what a great conversation, right? Like, this has just been so much fun, and profound as well. And so I'm grateful to you. I feel like we need you as the head motivator of the walled garden.
Yeah.
I'm feeling empowered today because this is just so much of what you're talking about. Responds directly to the parts of myself that I feel I need to strengthen and grow at this time.
Yeah,
So,
you said that when I picked the topic that it resonated strongly with you. So
yeah.
that's probably why we did it.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you for the honor of being here. I feel very privileged to share, and it was just great.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Walled Garden Podcast. This show is the central podcast of the Walled Garden Philosophical Society. To find out more about our events, services, and community, just go to thewalledgarden.com. Until next time, we wish you well as you nourish the gardens of your mind.